Hi guys, I'm Rachel and I'm here at Archivio Records with Shawn Dub. So he's a resident of Public Records, he's a buyer at Human Head Records as well, and he's a huge stalwart in New York's vinyl scene. So he's been holding it down for decades for crate diggers and enthusiasts alike. So today we're just gonna dive deep into how it all started.
Thank you
So
for having me.
thank you for coming here. I wanted to ask you, so I know that you've been collecting records since you were 19, right?
Yep.
How did it all start?
My mother and my godmother, just me going into our garage basically and found some records. I had that whole theory of like saw something on television, watching MTV, watching BET, I want to do that type thing. And then when I was in high school, I had a homie that took me to a party and I saw it in person, and it's just that whole trigger effect. And
What were they playing?
man, there's a group called Visionaries out of LA, and there's a song called The Blessing. And I remember that being one of the first records I heard. Another record I heard was an older record called Slave, a group called Slave, a song called Slide. So, yeah, it was like a house party. It was just like tons of like underground hip hop and then like breaks or like funk stuff. That's what I got. That's how I started getting into it. And then from there, my mom and my godmother had records at home, and that was like the start of it. And then I just started going to stores. Bought my first pair of Techniques when I was like 20, with my first like real check, from like tax return or some shit like that. I spent it all on turntable, and then I just migrated through meeting friends, started to like scratch and like join, DJ crews, and just however I could get my hands on something, I just got involved. And I went from that to like doing like some radio in Long Beach. I was DJing a few clubs. Eventually in LA, I joined a couple of rap groups when I was in LA. And then I ended up moving to the Bay in my early 20s, and then that's when I started really playing like more dance, getting more into the club stuff. Had a couple of mentors out there that were who've been doing it for a long time, and just moving my way up.
Yeah.
You know?
How did that evolution or like that transition into dance music like start?
I think it was always there because when I was growing up, my mom and her friends threw house parties, so I just heard all types of music. I heard everything from like Azimuth to like Mr. Fingers. My mom and her friends were very eclectic.
You got a range.
Yeah, like Long Beach. A lot of people don't think about it, but Long Beach is very diverse musically with the people that that the workforce, so for people that work there. And so I was just fortunate enough to have a lot of different music growing up, and then. I always had a love for just different types of things. I've never really sat in one realm, but that's from like just being into hip hop. Like hip hop DJs usually are bringing all types of things in. So when I started like that, I was bringing all types of things, and you just start going to the store, you just get curious. I would go to stores and I just like, what is that? And the next, and then have a friend like, oh, took me to like a rave or something like that, or I go to like some club or something like that. I was just very open to a lot of different stuff. And I didn't even think of it as like club or dance or any separation. I just liked music. When I started to DJ more, especially in LA, going to the Bay, I started to see that there's these like kind of like not class, I guess, like just the separation, of like styles. And so when I moved to San Francisco, the club scene there is everything's a little bit more niche, like more the insular because it's so smaller. I was able to kind of experience different things and go, oh, I didn't know that I fucked with this shit, like that type of thing. So.
Okay, then like how did you get from the West Coast to the East Coast?
Following a girlfriend at the time on some real shit. Her ass was in grad school here in New York, and and I moved. I transferred work. No, yeah, I was working in grocery stores for like 15 years, and at the time I was working at Whole Foods, so I transferred from Oakland to DC and then I was in DC, and then I made the move to New York, and I just found work here. That was, it was all through just working in the grocery stores.
Wow.
And that's how I really got around real quick. The short story, and it was cool because when I was in DC, I kind of stopped DJing because I wasn't really getting a lot of gigs, and
is the scene harder out there?
It's a little bit more sparse, and I wasn't making music at the time. I wasn't really a part of any crew at the time, so I was just kind of just a lone wolf, just trying to figure it out. But I had friends here that I met in Oakland and in San Francisco that would call me up, and I would come up and I'd play here. And so eventually, when I moved, when I was playing more here than I was down in DC. So when I moved, I just hit the ground running.
Yeah, it just made sense. Like it made that transition. Like,
yeah,
there's
just more places to, there's just more places to do stuff here.
I mean, it's New York.
It's New York.
There's no competition.
There's no competition. in the U.S., this is the market.
Yeah.
This is the market.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. So, you went from collecting records, playing at all of these like venues across the country. So, like, how did you start working at Human Head?
Because I was getting rid of records. Well, part of it was like I stopped working in the grocery stores. I kind of just like wanted to get out, and I just got out of there. I was doing beer distribution stuff, and I eventually got laid off. And at the same time, so half of my collection was back home. My brother held on to half of my collection when I originally moved to the East Coast, and which was the best idea ever. Thank Jonathan, fucking savior, love that dude. Bro, he had the great idea. It's like, hey, let me hold on to this while you figure shit out, and it was the best idea. Because I'm a record fiend, so I bought more stuff, so I accumulated more. And then when I finally had a place to house everything, he started shipping me it, and I played a lot of my stuff, so I needed to let go, but at the same time I got laid off. So I was DJing, but I needed to make sure I was getting money coming in, and so I started selling my records, and I started selling to Human Head. Travis was there, and I was selling records to him. And it got to a point where this is the short story, he got to a point where he was just like, look, I'm tired of buying your stuff. I'll pay you this much for the records, which wasn't a lot. He said, I would pay you to work these records. And so I decided to work the records. And I never worked in the store. It was my first time working in a shop. I applied for jobs back in the day to get a record. I could never really get one, but this was first person that gave me an opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a big deal. Like Human Head is like one of the biggest.
It wasn't
contributors.
At the time. We weren't thinking about this shit like this. We'll keep it a buck. Like we weren't. The store wasn't thinking about being what we are now. It just became that thing. But at the time, I was just processing whatever we can get a hold of, but my knowledge for 12s got us to start a 12-inch department because we did not have 12s in the store.
Yeah.
Most of it was on Discogs, or we were just giving shit away basically because their background was more in jazz, rock. The cool thing about Human Head is that everyone, including Travis and Steve, the two owners, our knowledge kind of all started around the same time. We all learned while we've been at Human Head. So it wasn't like we were all these crazy gun-ho record guys. I had a lot of knowledge about records, but I had knowledge about music that I liked. I didn't have no knowledge about selling and buying the stuff. I just had the knowledge of just like going to stores, being in stores.
You had the passion, but they brought the business.
And they had the, and so in our business base was based on making, processing things. And we clicked on that because I spent so many years working in grocery stores. So I understood the lingo that he was talking about and making things streamlined and working things in a certain way. That's really how we really connected. And that's really was the glue to us building, the 12-inch department. And I just started really getting into buying. I was, running the show sometimes on the weekends. And then I got into buying. And then it just everything just kind of started to just snowball. And I'm someone, anything I do, I try to be good at it. I just try my best, And so it wasn't like I was competitive and thinking about, I'm going to be the best at this. I just wanted to do a good job. And then, we started getting records, and then I just thought about how I was on the other side of being a customer, and I was just like, I want to treat everyone with the utmost respect, and I want everyone to get fucking wins. That's why I hate it about stores. Sometimes you go into record stores, there'll be no fucking wins in there. Like, and it's not like about getting something for cheap or something, but just like good records in the store. Like, I wanted to make sure that there was stuff in the store. In the beginning, I remember like purposely making, you know, like I wouldn't pull like great cool records. I would make sure I let them go to the store first before I took them home. You know, like I guess a lot of people, I didn't even realize this was a thing, but a lot of people just like they, you know, they get the good things. They, you know, they tell you like, oh, you're gonna get the good stuff before they get, and like I didn't, I never cared about that part, and I think that's what made our store great is that none of us cared about that, and so we just put wins out for people at every price point. The $2 stuff to the, you know, the things on the wall.
Yeah, so like it sounds like that joint effort has made Human Head into
if
the huge name that it is now.
Because everyone has their thing. You know, Travis who's the owner, doesn't want to be a DJ. So his focus is more on just everything about the store. You know, I'm not trying to be the boss. I'm trying to go out and hit the clubs and DJ and go party and go have a good time. You know, so it's just like there's this balance between everyone that was working there. There's folks that were in bands. There's been folks that, you know, DJ as well. You know, like it was just a really nice infrastructure of folks that loved music, but also had a little bit of a like chip on their shoulders to get things done and do it a certain type of way.
Yeah, so what was like the vibe of that shop when you first got there?
The original store had a sign that said "No haters allowed."
Love that.
The original store was a lot of Modelo's and weed smoking. We had a kegerator in there. Like it was loose, but man, for some loose folks, you know, like I worked damn near sometimes 24-hour days just because I was excited to get through stuff. Especially at the time because I had no partner at the time, so I would just work. I didn't care. It was fun. I actually, during that time, when I first started working at Human Head, I made a decision. I was like, you know what, I had a couple of gigs, but I started to kind of fall back from gigs because I wasn't really playing where I wanted to play, and I had all this access to music, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get this up, and not worry about what's going on. Yeah, that's not, and it worked to my advantage. I think it's how I've kind of, because my knowledge for music got way deeper and way better, and that helped out because I always had the skills to play, but I think that having that knowledge is the thing that really separates us, and just you know, and it's just through experience. And so I was able to soak in so much, and I was seeing records I'd never seen before, and I was just you know, or things that I remembered. You know, certain things were just like, oh shit, I forgot about this, and opened up, you know, those types of things. I was like connecting things, so it was just a hodgepodge. But yeah, it was loose, but I would say loose and aggressive. Because we're, you know, like Travis, the owner, he's like a, you know, if he was in the sports, he'd be a dominant motherfucker. Like he's trying to be the best at what he is. Like he could be smoking and drinking a Modelo and like still beating everybody in the store on like listings on Discogs, like crushing it and holding court in the store because his seat was like the main seat. So he could do all that at once. I couldn't do all that at once. I couldn't smoke and drink and hold. I could do pieces of that. I couldn't do everything.
Yeah, he could mix business and
but
pleasure.
So he was inspiring. So you were just like, if I can't keep up to him, then I'm gonna be, you know, like how am I gonna stay here? You know, so I always just found a way to keep up and keep it going on. So, and then, you know, like with the 12s. That's the one area that he didn't know well, and I learned. I knew already, but I learned more. So it was just something that I was able to add, and then keeping that level of like production, just getting things out, getting things into the store. You know, not letting a collection sit in the back. Like try to process that shit in the day. You know, try to take care of buys when they came in right then. Like and try to pay people properly to the best of our ability. You know, no one's perfect.
Of course.
But try to do right without hurting your own self too, you know, like that whole type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's been fun. 10 years. So
yeah, work should be fun. Ideally.
I've always worked the jobs that I worked in life. I always did them because they were fun. I enjoy working in the grocery store. I enjoy being a beer distributor. I enjoy working in a record shop. I enjoy DJing. I've always tried to do jobs that I love. Not that I haven't done other jobs that I didn't love. I just always try to make, work fun, just because you're going to have to do it anyways.
Yeah. So like speaking about like what you love, like I know that you're a resident at Public Records. Like how'd you get that started?
Again, just kind of fell into it.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of a collective called I Love Vinyl. And when they were first opening, they were looking to bring us in, but it was kind of tough because there was like 7 members. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's not a lean team.
It's not a lean team. And I don't think anything kind of like came out of that, but they gave a few of us that were around, because a lot of those guys were traveling, opportunities. Geology was one of them. He became a resident. I got opportunity to DJ, and at the time was the restaurant, and I just been sticking around. And then every time I had opportunities to play in the larger room, I had a good experience.
I love the atrium.
Yeah, I love the atrium. But before that, when it was just the sound room, every time I had opportunities, I would just go in there and play, and I would just do a good job. And they just gave me opportunities. They just kept on giving me opportunities. I think they just saw what I was doing with the store and saw how I was as a DJ, and I fit well because
you're representative of their brand.
Yeah, I mean, they're analog first, and so I am like a perfect subject to here you go play. So it just worked out. And then I started a party called Soul Follow, which was a blessing, and I've been able to have some of like my people I look up to and mentors play with me, and friends, and it's been good. I have another one actually tomorrow with Kenny Larkin. So
really,
yeah, playing with Kenny Larkin tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. When, like, tell me more about that.
It's so now I don't really call it. It used to be called Soul Follow. I don't really call it that anymore. I would just do dates. They move us around because I like playing in all the rooms. But this one is in the sound room with Kenny Larkin. I'll open up for him. I'll let him do his thing. I like these gigs because depending on who I play with, kind of dictates where I want to pull from my own collection. So
naturally,
I get to play some more of my nuttier, techier stuff that I like to get into, and so it should be fun. It's gonna be fun. It should be. It's always fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy playing. Sound room is a foolproof place to play as a DJ. That booth is ridiculous. One of the best booths I would say in the country.
I've seen so many DJs have so much fun when I'm chilling in the front. Like
it's cool. It's cool, and the vibe shifts when I play there, because there's folks that show up. Not all the time. It's not always folks up in there. I'll be real. Sometimes it's. So I was making this statement, like I feel like Public Records is more of a. It's a club, but it's more of an art space, because they're so artist forward. They're very artist forward, more so than the party. And I think that's the little of the difference, which is dope though, because I think we need that, because there's certain artists and DJs that need that space to be represented, and it's a growth. I think as they continue to grow, the party now is starting to catch up to what they've done, like as far as on the tech side, because it's off the hook.
Yeah, let's actually talk about the scene for a little bit. I know that it's evolved over time, just like anything.
2020 changed it again.
Yeah.
I think this, New York has so much freaking history. And I think right now, just like in a lot of places, no one's taking the time to learn the history, because they don't have time to learn the history, I would say, because things are just so much in your face, and you only learning. And also I think too, New York is large. The quote unquote scene, there's a scene to me, and then there's New Yorkers. And for a while, I think there was generations where the scene and New Yorkers are like this. Now we like this, because the scene is scene is mimicking other countries. We're trying to be like other places because it's a profit margin. You're looking at business. Like these clubs now. You paying thousands of dollars for folks to come in, and you got, you're trying to get 1,000 to 2,000 people foot traffic in your space, like that's a lot. And you're trying to make it off of ticket sales and like bar sales. That's tough. That's
Yeah.
tough. That's money from foot traffic. And like, let's be real, how much of us that are especially into this stuff are making enough to be in these spaces? So we kind of getting priced out of our own shit. We're not even kind of, we are getting priced out of our own shit.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you got folks that are working this stuff. I won't say they shouldn't be working this stuff. I just think that folks need to do more of their homework of where they live and what they're doing, because a lot of the folks that are working in the scene aren't from here anymore. Just because like me, I've been here for 10 years. I'm an import. I didn't grow up here.
Yeah.
I'm from somewhere. I'm from California.
Yeah. So where would you where would people start? Like, where would you?
I say if you're coming here, the first thing is, don't worry about so much social media. Kind of vibe off of who you get around.
Yeah.
New York's a few places where you can still do that. Where you could run into somebody, like, and then you start going on your own little adventure. I mean, that's how I found LeBon. That's because a homie of mine that was living here was like, we're gonna take you to this spot. I was like, where are we going? And it was back when they were doing like Mondays, and like DJ Spinner was playing. And like, I was like, oh, I know who Spinner is. Like, but I didn't know the party that I was getting involved. It was a Giant Step party, and it was sick. And it was just all these things. And if I was just worried about social media, I may not have found that. I didn't know that. It was through friends. I think get off this and get on what's around you first. I think, not to say that you can't utilize that, just try that first here, because there's so many things you could fall into. There's so many places you can get lost in. And not everything is in the club. Go to private parties, go to different events, go to day parties, go to the record store, go to coffee shops, go to art spaces, go to things. Engage with the freaking city. Engage with the city first. Don't worry about
not just the parties, about
not
the
just the
community.
parties. Go to because that's the community. If you engage with the city is the community. You're gonna find all these things. You fall into a record store, you're automatically gonna find some of these places, and then come back to that. And then but get your feet wet first. Get your own little gusto. Learn. That's what this is about. It's an adventure.
Absolutely.
It's an adventure. It's, like, choose your own adventure, opposed to like have someone guiding it out. Not to say that like I think there's a all these different things that we can use. Instagram, Resident Advisor, you name it. They all can help you scope. It's like playing a video game, right? And you like a choose your own adventure, or like first person, not first person. What do you call that? What do you call the ones that are like Final Fantasy and shit like that?
Is it like the role playing?
Role playing games, right?
Yeah.
You do role playing games, right? When you first play that game, you know the basic instructions, and then you start venturing off. After you go around, you start to kind of go back in, and start reading up, and start learning things as like, I think you treat like going to parties like that. Like, go to what you kind of gravitate to, and then kind of come back and then start to do your research. When you start to find, you find that person that you like, then start to see where they play, see, and then start, like do a little bit of both. Be a detective about it. Don't just follow blind. You got to, especially if you're into this stuff. You're gonna, like anything that I'm into, I try to put as much as I can into it. I'm not just relying on other people. You don't seem like anyone who
half-asses anything.
No.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't. You're in New York, you shouldn't be half-assing. You come up short when you half-ass.
Yeah, so you talked about LeBan. So we're here because, this is Archivio Records, and Pablo's one of the co-founders here.
And one of the best lighting guys in the world.
Absolutely, don't forget.
Don't forget that. Pablo is, to me, is like, if Pablo was a party, I would go to that party all the time, because there's this excitement, but there's calm. That everything's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Like that type. Like Pablo is the type of person that he's a true, like, to me, like he's like what you should aspire to be in New York nightlife. Someone that just finds his way, does his thing, puts his stamp on everything without having to be the face of it, the focal point of it.
Yeah.
You know, anytime I know that Pablo's doing something, I fuck with it because I know it's gonna be cool. You know.
Yeah. There's like perseverance and diligence and humility behind it.
You gotta have that. You gotta have that. I
Yeah.
think that's just a part of it.
Yeah. So how did you meet him?
Damn, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. It was before the shop. Was it before the shop?
I think it was at the shop.
Was it at the shop?
I think it might have been at the shop.
Then I just started coming. I guess it was at the shop. Yeah, it was. And then I started coming out to your shit. Yeah. So then I started to find out, like, oh, you doing lights at Good Room. Oh, you doing this over here. And I just started coming to stuff. Because he was just always chill. Yo, you and Lorenzo would come out, you know, you guys dig for a little bit, you go have a little smoke, then come back, you do this little dig, then get your things. And then also, you know, we were going to talk about how we helped Archivio, but you and Lorenzo were the start of me having proper people in the store because you guys would trade me records. And that was the big thing. I think that's going back to that. That was the other thing. I was all about the trade at the store. I thought that was just important as buying stuff because I was getting other people's taste into the store. It couldn't just be a store of just my taste. It needs to be a store of all types of folks because I want as many people to be shopping in there. But it does have to have some kind of curation because it can't just be everything. There's certain things are whack. We don't need it, you know, like. But by buying though, I start to learn other people's tastes and by seeing who would pick stuff after they brought stuff in. And I had things that they wanted, so I just thought that was always, it was easy, you know. And it made the store better, you know. And they were the first folks. It was you, Lorenzo, Amari, and freaking God, what's Amari's friend? And one other guy. Y'all the four. That really changed. I think so. Yes.
Yeah, because Human Head was the only record shop that helped Archivio with the collection when it first started in 2021. Yes.
Damn.
Yeah.
Everyone else is slipping.
Yeah, they were sleeping.
That's us. You know, we move things in bulk, and I try to move records. I never wanted the store to be a museum. I don't care about having the flyest thing. I want it to move. If it's the flyest thing, it should move. You know, like if it's not moving, then it's either we pricing it wrong or it's not the flyest thing. So when they hit me up about it, I wasn't even thinking. I just thought about it like everything else. Like, yeah, I'll see what I got. Here we go. Whoop-de-whoop. Boom. I didn't really put a lot of thought because everything is kind of already there. So I didn't put too much thought into it. But I always want to help. I don't even think about it as help. It's just like, it's what we're supposed to be doing. The records have to move around.
Absolutely.
The records don't move around, then everything becomes stale and stagnant.
Yeah, so like, you know, you helped us back in 2021. So like, how have you observed that Archivio has evolved since then?
Oh, just your footprint. Just like, you know, seeing, you know how I know is like seeing the stickers in my store. 'Cause that's what it's all about. Like when we're buying used stuff, you know, you see all types of stickers. You see, you know, like there's Human Head stickers all over the world now. You know, Archivio Records, same thing. You know, because because this is a global city. Everyone comes through this motherfucker, especially for DJing. You touching one of us. You're not if you're a record playing DJ, you're touching one of our stores.
Correct.
That's what it is. So I think that seeing them on the other side, people coming in like, I got these records, and I'm like, oh shit, you know, that and just the events and just, you know, people mentioning it as we pop up at record shows together, all that stuff, all that kindred, you know, him spending less time in the shop. That's why I know he's working. You know?
Do you remember your favorite record that you got here?
Here at Archivio?
Yeah.
I think I think I got like a track mode record the first time he came here. The first time, and it's funny because it might have been a record I sold you guys.
You just want it back.
I think it, you know. God, I can't remember the guy's name. I can tell you that's weird. That's what I'm really bad with names. I can tell you everything. It's a track mode record that has keys on it, and I can tell you the price point. It's like a $7 to $9 or $10 record, and it's like an early track mode track joint. And it's very like soulful house. It's got just mad keys all over it. I forget the name of the artist though. I couldn't tell you the name of the artist, but I still have that record. I still play that record. Yeah, it's weird. Like, I'm not really good with names, but I can tell you what it looked like and what it cost.
Yeah, like, I mean, we're visual people.
I'm very much a visual person.
Yeah. And okay, so then regarding like Human Head, what's a record that...
My favorite record I got from Human Head is James Mason, Rhythm of Life. It's a very hard to find jazz funk record. We've had few copies, and one year for my birthday, Travis gifted me one. Oh, you know what? There's a couple other ones. There's one of the first big collections I ever got of 12s. There's this guy, his name is Mike. We call him Hearing Aid Mike because he has a hearing aid. Great dude. Sold us this collection of like 20 boxes of like techno and house. And this is when I was saying I worked like 24 hours. When we got this collection, we bought it. I worked the first 2 days nonstop. I think I slept there. I just like passed out, woke up, like just didn't even shower. I just worked for like almost 2 days straight. And after I worked the collection, Mike was really proud of how much I worked through it and how much. So he had been holding on to about like 10 Moody Man records, and he just gave them to me because he knew I loved Moody Man. So I had like Shades of Grey, I had Jan, I had what's the other one? Sweet Yesterday. It was about 10 records. He just handed it to me, and it was crazy because I had some Moody Man records before, but I had to get rid of them because I just wore them out. And so I was missing a lot of pieces. So he just like handed me, like, he just like kind of rebuilt my Moody Man collection, like off of just a handful, just from me working the stuff. It was really nice, yeah. And that's what was like, there's so many stories like that at that shop, like so many great experiences in that store that I could be talking for days.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds like you have a lot of love.
a lot of love in that store, a lot of crazy things that happen, a lot of weird stuff, a lot of funny stuff. I always said like, I also say Trader Joe's. Human Head feels like Trader Joe's. Human Head is like a freaking sitcom. It's like a freaking sitcom. The characters that we had that come into the store, the things that have happened in the store, it's weird. It's like that place has been struck by lightning. Just like very interesting.
Can you share like one funny, absurd thing that's happened? Unless that's like confidential.
No, it's not. No, I'm just trying to think of like funny ones. Well, I'll tell you a story about a character of the store. So there's a gentleman that comes in the store. His name is Joe. His nickname is Joe Loco. So Joe Loco is, so our store is in like Bushwick, quote unquote East Williamsburg, but it's Bushwick. And Joe Loco is a native there. He started coming into the shop, very knowledgeable about Latin records. Travis and him started hitting it off. We started to get to know Joe Loco. So Joe tells us that he used to be in a music video. So Joe Loco was in this is why we call him Joe Loco. He was in the music video Hand on a Pump by Cypress Hill, which they shot around there. Yes, he's the guy with the shotgun. That's Joe Loco. Now Joe is more than that. Joe has, like I said, vast knowledge of Latin music. Just a pillar in the neighborhood. Just been around forever. He always coming. He got crazy ass stories about people he hooked up with or the job that he does. Like he just always come in and just like had wild ass stories. So that's just Joe Loco. Yeah. There's other stories too. I mean, there's a guy that got kicked out of all the other stores, but became our friend. There's this guy named Solo,
Okay.
which his Solo, which means nothingness. Solo is like he's a record guy that people know, and he's been kicked out of a lot of stores. He
But not yours.
No, because he would come into our store. I think we were one of the last people that let him in, and he would get a little brash and loud, but eventually we squashed all that, and he became just like a friend of the shop. He was coming into the store, like on a regular basis.
Oh, wow. It sounds like your store is like a safe space.
Yeah,
for a
like I
lot
said,
of
there was
people.
the sign "No haters allowed" was a
Yeah.
thing. Like we don't care how cool you are or what you've done. It's not that we don't acknowledge that. It's just that this store is for everyone. This store is for everyone, for the novice and for the expert. It's for everybody, and we don't slip on that. It's about everyone. We love the person that buys the $2 records, which we're really famous for selling stuff at that price, and we love the person that comes and buys the Sun Ra record that's $500, and love everyone in between.
Well, on that note, what do you think makes like a good record store?
It starts from the top down. I think having pillar ideas about what you want to get across. I think also some kind of personal style, and also I think wherever you're doing your store, you're connected to your community. If you're not connected to your community, I don't think that the store works out too well. I think that's important. I think having connection with the community, because you're usually, especially with our type of store, we are buying from the community. So if we can't have this interaction, then how is the store going to last?
Yeah, it's not just about the money.
It's not just about the money.
Yeah.
The money comes because you're able to. It's the long game. That's also, I think, a store. If you're going to be a store, you got to think about the long game. Short game. You shouldn't do something else.
Yeah, and I think your life is a testament to that.
Yeah. It's been the long game. The long game has worked for me. Anything short has always kind of fizzled out. Never really popped off for me. It's always been the time that I put in, and also not realizing that something might get into something else. So not always going, I need to be here. I said this, I think, in another interview. Like, you got to really. Maybe I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like, you really need to like think about this. Like, it's not always where you want to be. It's more about where you need to be. And life always kind of tells you where you need to be if you listen. And not always where you want to be. Sometimes we're like, I got to be here because this is cracking off. I got to be here to see this person, or I need to holler at this person. A lot of times now, especially now, I think it's about where you need to be, because you can pop off anywhere now. We're so connected. And
almost too connected.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah, almost too connected. But there's so many ways that things can pop off for you. So take advantage of the communities that you have.
Yeah.
Already. Don't think about you have to engulf yourself into something. Unless things are just, like I said, it will tell you, things will tell you if you need to be somewhere too. Things aren't cracking off and you're struggling all the time, and then put yourself somewhere else. Put yourself somewhere better.
Yeah, I think it's important to know when to pivot. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your wisdom and sharing your experiences.
Thanks for letting me rant. I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.